This is a feature. We're featuring another subscriber's commander deck. And in this video, we're going to be going over Klauth, the Unrivaled Ancient. I actually met Clay, the individual who owns this deck, on Tapped Out, and I told him to join the community, and it's been good ever since. I will say that I'll notice immediately this commander deck is $79, which is just so everyone knows. When we look at Klauth over here, Klauth says he has Flying and Haste. He's a 4/4, costs 7 mana. Whenever Klauth Unrivaled Ancient attacks, add X mana to any combination of colors where X is the total power of attacking creatures. Spend this mana only to cast spells. Until the end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Okay, so Klauth is clearly a pretty powerful card because it gives you the ability to just cast a ton of spells essentially every turn. So if you would like your commander deck featured in one of these videos, the link to the Discord is in the description below. You can join the Discord, take your commander deck list, upload it into the deck list review, and then write a little synopsis for what the commander deck does so I have an idea of what we are looking to accomplish inside this deck. So right away, when I think about this, when I see this commander deck, Clay, you're gonna have the ability to cast a ton of spells, because you should be making a good amount of mana. So let me just move this camera off to the side so I can see better. So when I look at this, Clay, I'm thinking that how do we turn that into an advantage for us? Like, yeah, we're gonna get all this mana, but like, what if I only have spells that aren't really that impactful in my hand, you know? So like, how do we get more out of what we already have, you know? Cool, it's perfect then. So what I was thinking right off the bat, I mean, I'm gonna take a look at the cards first and then I'll make my suggestions afterwards, but I'm thinking on how can we maximize every time we cast a spell. So we have Decree of Savagery, Cycling. Okay, this one came in the commander deck, I'm pretty sure. So that's probably why you have this. We have Opportunistic Dragon. Clay, were you going for a dragon theme? We have a Chain Reaction, Magma Quake, Mossfire Valley, Crucible of the Spirit Dragon. This is the commander deck. Imposing Grandeur. Oh, this is actually a good one for your commander deck, considering your commander costs 7. I would totally keep that card. Atarka. Oh, this card wins games, Clay. You're gonna win a commander game because of this card, Clay. Chaos Dragon. Okay. Skyfire Phoenix. Okay. We have a Torian Mauler. It's a dragon. Mosswort Bridge. Game Trail. Eater of Virtue. Molten Echoes. This is a good one. This is pretty cool right here. I think when I see this, it's good in the moments where you're casting a dragon. Oh, I see, because technically when you have the Molten Echoes on the battlefield, if you cast a dragon and you make another dragon and Klauth's on the battlefield, when you go to attack, you're essentially doubling up that power, which essentially doubles up the mana that you're going to be creating. You understand what I'm saying? You're going to end up, if you put a 4/4 on the battlefield when you go to attack that turn. Well, no. Well, yeah, you're adding mana to your mana pool every time you cast a dragon, which is essentially reducing the mana cost of your dragons if you get that mana back because of Klauth. I like this card. Skyline Despot, Dragonborn Champion. Vengeful Ancestor, Klauth's Will, Haven of the Spirit Dragon, Wolfgar of Icewind Dale, Cinderglade, Return of the Wild Speaker, Blasphemous Act, Maddening Hex. I would take this card out of the deck. I would take that card out of the deck. This is good in a deck where you just want to be dealing damage to people. This could be like some way to give your creatures haste. You know, this could be like a Fires of Yavimaya. So like, well, I'll go over those cards later. Fable of the Mirror Breaker, that's really cool actually. Fault Line, okay. Brondis, Dragon Master Outcast. So Clay, is this essentially that precon? This looks like the precon. We got a Highland Game, Illustrious Historian. Old Gnawbone would be super intense. Titanic Growth, Unstoppable Ogre, the Shattered States Era. Shatter. You know, a Harvesttide Century. Wild Guess. And then these are all like the lands. So I'm gonna. So Clay, like how many, I guess a fair question to ask would be like, how many cards do you have in your, like when did you start playing Magic? Did you start playing Magic fairly recently? A Bronze Plate Boar. Okay. Yeah, so you're generally like new. Reinforced Ronin. Yeah, like started a month ago. Oh, thank you, Richard, for knowing that. Okay. Okay. So you know what I could say is like technically whenever you're building like a commander deck, Clay, like just as an example, like I'll bring the camera back around so you can see. Let me move my T. Like when you're building a commander deck, Clay, like if I go over here and I bring on the camera so you can see the playmat, like essentially what you could do is let me just fix this. So like if I have cards in my hand right here, right? Technically, like you can take a look at the deck, and then let's say you're building this deck. You have dragons. Let's say you would want to give your dragons haste, which means they can attack immediately, so that you can gain. This Klauth says you add X mana in any combination where X is the total power of attacking creatures. So giving your creatures the ability to attack immediately essentially gives you mana immediately with Klauth in play. So like if it costs 5 mana to put a dragon in play and that dragon is a 4/4, essentially it costs you 1 mana to play that dragon, you know, if it could attack right away. So what I was thinking is you could take the deck that you have, right, and look at the card and say, is this a dragon or does this give my creatures haste? This is a dragon, this is a dragon, this is a dragon, this might be a land, right? You put that off to the side. And then you could say, this is something that has haste. So haste, dragon, haste, haste, dragon, haste, haste, dragon. And just make a pile. But eventually, Clay, when you're doing this, you'll get to a point where you're like, this doesn't really synergize with either of these two things, so I'm going to put that over here. I'm going to leave that over there. And then you go dragon, dragon, haste. This is random. And the more important thing, Clay, is what you're looking to do is separating all the cards that don't really synergize with either of those two effects. And then once you have that pile of cards that don't synergize, you would just take those cards and remove them from the deck. So like, for example, like if I remove the camera over here and I look at the like I look at this bronze plate boar, right? This is an artifact, okay, that gives +3/+2 and has trample and has reconfigure. It's not going to give our creatures haste. It's going to give them trample, which would be cool. But generally, like, flying creatures are kind of unblockable already anyway. So this might be a card, Clay, that would end up in that pile where, like, you're like, oh, well, this doesn't really go with what what we're looking to build here. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna pull up Card Kingdom, actually TCG Player, because TCG Player generally has cheaper cards. So I'm gonna pull this over here, and I want to show you the cards that that I think would help. So we have I mentioned the Fires of Yavimaya before, and this card is generally pretty cheap. So we have a Fires of Yavimaya over here. It just says creatures you control have haste. Says you can sacrifice this to give target creature +2/+2, but you're really gonna play this for the 3 mana just to give your creatures haste. So you play the enchantment, and now all your dragons have haste. There's also a card called Dragon Tempest that should I think it was already in that deck, if I'm not mistaken, or it's not. Yeah, it's definitely not in that deck, unfortunately. But a Dragon Tempest, this is $4.35. This is whenever a creature with flying enters the battlefield under your control, it gains haste until the end of turn. And also notice over here, if I remove the English portion over here, it's going to give me Chinese versions of the cards, which here's a $1 copy of Dragon Tempest. You know, Clay, you just saved $5 by buying the Chinese copy of Dragon Tempest. You know what Dragon Tempest does. You know exactly what it is. You know the name of the card. So like, this is a card that I would buy this card Chinese just because it saves me almost $5. This says free shipping on orders over $5. You could literally just fill out the rest of your cart with $4 worth of cards to get free shipping. And now, instead of like, spending $5 on one card, $5 might get you 10 cards, depending on how expensive the cards are, right? So like, I always suggest buying the Chinese, the Japanese, or the French, or like the German copies of the cards, or Russian, because they're generally a lot cheaper and they do the same exact thing. So Dragon Tempest is going to be a pretty good card. And then, back to what I was saying about the other strategy was, how when you get all this mana, Clay, like, what do you do with it? Like, it says you can only spend this mana only to cast spells. So like, in Magic, there's an ability, and Richard, like, if you come up with any cards that like, please put it into the chat, or anyone watching this right now, please put it into the chat. There's a card called Sunbird's Invocation. And if you know any other card, Richard, that acts, or anyone knows anything that acts as Sunbird's Invocation, please type it in the chat. Dude, this is 59 cents. So, and I think this came in the Commander deck, if I'm not mistaken. I think this was in the Commander deck. But this says, whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. You may cast a card revealed this way with converted mana cost X or less without paying its mana cost. So not only, Clay, are you casting the spell, the dragon, the seven mana dragon from your hand, but now you look at the top 7 cards of your library on that same trigger and play another spell for free. So essentially, like, what you're doing is you're getting more value. And generally, like, this ability here is technically an ability called Cascade. So like, if I go to let me see. Yo, this is 80 cents, dude. This would be a pretty powerful combination inside your deck. Like, if I go over here to Google and type in Cascade and then MTG, I could go see all the cards here that have Cascade. It says that there's 40. So like generally what I probably would do here, let me just zoom in on this so it's easier to see. But like I would find, even though these cards, Clay, are not dragons per se, but they have Cascade. So like if you were to get all that mana from casting, you know, from attacking with your dragons, essentially like I would look for cards here that had Cascade. So once you would play the cascaded spell, you would then look at the top however many cards of your library, exile cards off the top of your library until you find a spell, and then you play that spell for free. But essentially just allowing you to, not only do your opponents have to worry about taking, you know, 15 damage from the dragons, you getting 15 mana, you casting a spell from your hand, and now you're casting even more spells, you know, from your library for free, you know, which could, I think that depending on the spells that you put inside your deck, could totally take your deck from a thing where it's like, all right, well, I'm attacking now, and I may win the game in 3 turns because I'm attacking with all these creatures, to being like, oh no, like I'm attacking now, and if you don't stop this because of what I just cascaded into, I'm gonna win the game next turn. So I think that would really speed up the clock from you playing against your opponents. So just going onto Google and finding things that give your dragons haste. You know, sometimes they're dragons, like that Dragon Tempest card that I showed you earlier. It says when dragons enter the battlefield, each player takes damage equal to the number of dragons you have on the battlefield. And I know there's a lot of, there's even dragons that have the same ability as that. So I would find just dragons that have to do with entering the battlefield, cards that give creatures haste, and cards that give Cascade, or cards like that Sunbird's Invocation. And like it'll, the clock for how quickly your opponents can react to what you're playing will, dude, they're literally gonna have to, they'll have like 1 or 2 draws to find an answer to what you've set up, and if they can't find an answer, you just win the game. Like it'll just cascade you into just an unstoppable board state, essentially, if you could manage to pull those cards together. So you are in the Discord, Clay, so maybe if you're watching this and you're part of the Discord, you can go into the Discord on a deck list review, and I'll post this. See, Richard just typed in Lathless Dragon Queen, so if we take a look at Lathless, yeah, and look, dude, Clay, this card's $1.88. And if we could find a copy that was, yeah, in English. It says, whenever another non-token dragon enters the battlefield under your control, create a 5/5 red dragon token with flying. So, and mention, remember that if we have haste, you would essentially play a dragon, which generally has 4 power. You create a 5/5 dragon, which is another 5 power, which means that you attack with your commander with 4 power. So like in 1 turn, by casting 1 dragon, you just made 4, 9, 4. You made 13 mana out of casting 1 dragon. So, and that does trigger Dragon Tempest. So just keep that in mind. I think you got a pretty powerful commander deck in the making. It's just I would personally just focus on haste and cards that let you play spells for free after casting spells, like the ability of Cascade. Okay, so I want to thank Clay for allowing me to feature his commander deck on stream. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, you can go into the description of this video and enter the Discord yourself and post your deck list in the deck list review tab on the Discord with a little synopsis for what the deck does, so I have an understanding of what you're looking for when you're building your commander deck. And you can get that on stream. Okay, so, and also be aware this is a family-friendly channel, so if you are looking to join the chat and be a part of this community, just keep that in mind. Be respectful, because there may be children watching these videos.